Mr. Steele, do convey to your colleagues the greetings of our Assembly, and I give to you a couple of publications, one by our own Publications Committee under the auspices of John Kerry and Thomas Chalmers, and then one publication relating to John Morrison, a retired minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Report of the General Trustees to be presented by the Chairman.
Moderator, Fathers and Brethren, the report of the General Trustees is to be found on pages 104 following in the Assembly papers, and it is as laid out for you there. Just to draw attention to one or two items in particular. Firstly, to give thanks to a number of individuals. Again, Murray Mackay, as advisor to the General Trustees, has been invaluable in his help and assistance, and also Mr. John Gillis, invaluable in his role as clerk, and also very much supportive of the trustees in general. We also need to pay tribute and to give thanks to Lindsay McCallum. As you'll be aware from the last Assembly, Assembly legislation means that if a man reaches the age of 80, they have to retire from being a trustee. So you don't need a degree to work out how old Mr. McCallum is now. But we're thankful for his service as a General Trustee. No doubt he'll continue to serve the Church in many other roles, but we thank him for his service. And following the amalgamation of presbyteries, leaving us with kind of one trustee short, the Southern Presbytery have nominated Mr. Alistair Manderson as a General Trustee, and so, God willing, he will join as a trustee, General Trustee from the rising of this Assembly. In terms of the matters within the report, just draw attention to one or two matters. The General Trustees do have a legal and role in regards to charity law and civil law associated with that. We have a very important role. We sign off the church accounts, and clearly in matters if there was any financial impropriety and difficulties, the General Trustees would have a liability in law. So we have an important role to play. At the same time, linking that with General Assembly legislation and the duties that are upon us. So it's not simply an honorary role, as it were, it's an important role for us. Regarding a couple of things coming from the audit, the matter of congregational OSCR registration was again raised by the auditor of an area needing attention, and we're thankful for the congregations that have made progress in this matter, and we would encourage such congregations to give assistance at a local level, that all congregations work towards this level of achievement. And also related to that is the matter of HMRC, HM Revenue Customs registration, in order to have a clear audit trail for gift aid contributions. So we're thankful for the general advice that has been given to assist congregations, and would encourage further progress to be made in these matters. The trustees also have a role in looking over the denominational risk register. I know this is going to be dealt with, or at least regarding the safeguarding policy, under the legal committee, so I'll leave that for them to speak on. But nevertheless, the risk register is an important document, and it's important that local congregations, local kirk sessions and local deacons' courts do take cognizance of the risk register. This obviously applies within Scotland. Maybe some aspects of it would be useful in our congregations abroad, but obviously there are different laws, etc. But the principles are there. So that document is important to be adopted at a local level, and it's important that record is made within session records and Deacon's Courts or Finance Committee records that such matters are addressed on a yearly basis. The matter at point 3 regarding 85 Old Edinburgh Road is coming as a separate private report, I think, to be held tomorrow, God willing. So I'll leave that for now, but I'd simply commend the report to the brethren and especially reiterating thanks to the men mentioned. Thank you.
Are there any questions? No questions. Seconder?
Moderator, I'm going to repeat what I've been saying perhaps the past 3 or 4 years. I'll be off the committee, and I've always considered myself a bit of a passenger. Tribute has already been paid to those who really do the work on the committee. Mr. Gillis, Mr. Mackay, but someone hasn't been mentioned, and that is the convener, Dr. Naylor. He has really borne the brunt of the business before the committee in the last year and before, but this year has been particularly difficult and stressful. We don't go into things at the moment, but I would like to pay tribute to Mr. Dr. Naylor. He's a man of a, retiring disposition, self-effacing disposition, a gentle disposition, and perhaps has got these qualities to be in the position he is, but also because of that, there's a sensitivity, and he feels issues in a personal way, perhaps that I wouldn't and others wouldn't. So really, I'm going to second it when I can get advice, but I would like to simply pay tribute to those who really have done the work over the past year and over a number of years. And as I said, Dr. Neil does not pay tribute to himself. So I am here to certainly pay that tribute on behalf of the committee and I hope on behalf of the Assembly.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any speakers on this item? Seeing no speakers.
Thank you, Moderator. Well, I would move, brethren, in terms of the proposed deliverance on page 105.
All happy? It's been seconded by Lindsay. All content? Yes? I take that as a yes.
Thank you.
Report of the Committee on Assembly Arrangements and Nominations, Part B.
Thank you, Moderator. The Report B of the Assembly Arrangements and Nominations Committee can be found on pages 4 through 6, through 8, and the proposed deliverance on page 9. The Assembly last year and the previous year tasked us with investigating the practicalities and the possibility of having the Assembly in Edinburgh. And the committee sought to fulfil that remit, and we looked with assistance from brethren in Edinburgh at a suitable building there, along with this building here in Partick. We were very conscious that there were strong opinions on the matter, and we were conscientious, as far as I'm concerned, to seek or to consult with those who were of that persuasion. We didn't actively seek someone who was strongly of the position for Glasgow. The feeling that I got from the committee was that there was a matter of indifference. And we were open to suggestions from both sides. We've sought to look into the biblical principle, the theological principle, church history principles, and practical considerations, and they are summarised in our report. Perhaps the most contentious one, I think, will be the theological one on the establishment principle. But the committee felt that the arguments presented for the establishment principle and the symbolic expression of that with a venue in Edinburgh was not presented to us as essential. It is, yes, we agree it is desirable, and that is why the deliverance includes the periodic review of the assembly being held in Edinburgh every 5th year, and the 5th year being by default the entire committee being replaced by new personnel. So there's always fresh eyes looking at the issue. That's the matter as far as I can present it at the minute. The committee are persuaded that Partick is the best and most appropriate position for the Assembly going forward.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Lots of questions. Mr. Gracie and then Mr. McCallum.
Moderator, can I thank Mr. MacLeod for his report. It's a pity that some of these questions couldn't have been asked in the committee stage, but I wasn't shown this at all. I'm not sure who Mr. MacLeod is referring to when he says that he was liaising with brethren in Edinburgh. But could I ask Mr. MacLeod, his report, could I draw the brethren's attention to page 4 and number 1. General Assembly 2023 and 24 tasked the Assembly Arrangements and Nominations Committee to investigate the practical aspects of holding a General Assembly in Edinburgh. What the actual Assembly instructed the committee to do was the General instructed continue remit of the committee in investigating a possible location in Edinburgh for a future General Assembly. Can Mr. MacLeod indicate if the committee fulfilled that remit?
Mr. MacLeod.
Could I see the wording?
Investigating a possible location in Edinburgh for a future General Assembly.
Yes. The committee appointed a subcommittee to liaise with brethren in Edinburgh to look into or locate a suitable location, and that location or venue was presented to the committee for looking into.
Could I
Mr.
ask
Gracie?
what location that is?
Fernie Hill.
You have more questions?
Yes. Fernie Hill was referred to by me in the Assembly last year, Moderator. I gave what information I had. Can the convener indicate what more information he has today than we had last year? For example, is Fernie Hill actually available to us? What they do in the Wednesday when they have someone in there for a meal, how much does it cost?
The report given if I may be so bold, clerk. The correspondence came through the clerk to the committee. If you would, may I permit the clerk to respond to that part?
Sorry, could you repeat your question, Mr. Gracie?
Last year, on the floor of the Assembly, I proposed Liberton Kirk because I couldn't. No, Liberton Kirk, because I couldn't propose Ferniehill because I didn't have the information. I withdrew the Liberton Kirk on the basis that I didn't want to offend people's conscience going there, but I was assured that Ferniehill would be inquired into. Now, how much more information do we actually have today about Ferniehill? Would I, for example, be able to propose to this Assembly we go to Ferniehill next year? Do we actually know Ferniehill would be available to us, and how much would it cost?
I understand, moderator, it would be available. The last indication we had for cost, I think it was in a conversation with yourself, Mr. Gracie, was that they were probably not going to take any money from us except perhaps a donation or something like that.
That's what I said on the floor of the Assembly last year, that might be because the minister there knew the minister from Liberton, but I don't know. I'm not able to say how much. I don't even know if the Liberton would be able to do it. What would they do, for example, on a Wednesday when they have people in from here? These are issues that...
Moderator, it's not possible to hear what's been said.
Sorry.
Well, you need to speak to the mic. Thank you.
I'm not going to push this much further, moderator, but I just wonder, would I be able today to propose Ferniehill with the assurance that we would be able to have it and at a certain price as to what it would be? That's my question.
Thank you for the question. Mr. MacLeod. Mr. Callum MacLeod. Are you able to answer that question?
Sorry.
Anyone answer that question?
Could you ask that, please? Can you?
Would I be able today to propose Ferniehill as a proposed place for this Assembly next year, because we knew that yes, we would get it for these days, we'd be assured by the committee we would get it, and how much we would get it for?
As far as I understand, Mr. Gracie, the information came from yourself that it would be available.
I'll leave it just now and I'll speak again.
Okay.
I would like to ask another. No, I'll leave it there. I'll leave that just now.
Okay. Are there any more questions? And I'm assuming there are no more questions because there's no one at the front.
I think there is another question.
Is there?
The moderator, page 6, second
but nobody
last
else.
paragraph. It should be noted that regular relocations is not practical for the Assembly Clerk's Department and should be avoided if possible. Could there be an explanation as to what that means?
Perhaps, with your permission, I'll take that one, moderator. There's a lot to be said for being in the same location, moderator. A good deal of the furniture and other, movable furniture and so on, can be left in one location. We know what we're coming back to. We're familiar with the location. It doesn't require visits by the Clerk's Department beforehand to see what's available and what wouldn't be available, from parking outside to items in here. You remove that as soon as you move to various locations, and it becomes a good deal more awkward and difficult, not for the committee, but for the Clerk's Department to manage things. So that's really why that was included.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, would you like to move?
Yes, moderator, I would move as in the report.
Is there a seconder?
Mr. MacDonald.
Thank you, moderator. Fathers and brethren, just a couple of comments in moving I do believe that the committee have fulfilled the remit of the last General Assembly. It may not be in agreement with everybody that the committee have done, but I don't think we can say that the committee have not fulfilled the remit. I do think also that it's a very wise decision to reason for the 5 years, because of what MacLeod has said, there'll be a change of committee then, and who knows, things may be looked at in a different way. I also don't think it's very fair to say in the proposed deliverance on your coloured sheet there that was not properly, did not properly investigate a possible location. I really don't think that is very fair at all to say that. Maybe it wasn't done again, could have been done better, but I don't think it's right to say that. And also that the idea of the General Assembly appointing 6 brethren to investigate the possibility. Brethren, that's why we already have a committee, and the committee have looked into it, done so as they felt that they were guided by the General Assembly, and done so, I believe, very fairly as well. So I have now second.
Are there any further motions? I think
For an point of information, I think we also looked at the Faith Mission College in Edinburgh, and that was considered in considerable detail as a possible venue for the Assembly.
Thank you.
Can I respond?
Sorry?
Just a further point of
Okay.
Moderator, just to follow up on Mr. MacLeod's comment there, the Faith Mission was considered, but that was in the previous year, and it was not available because it was already pre-booked for the Assembly Week.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gracie, you have a motion? You'd like to come?
My motion is that the proposed deliverance be replaced with the following. It's as you have it in your hand, in the pink, whatever it is. General Assembly expressed their disappointment that the Assembly Arrangements Committee did not properly investigate a possible location in Edinburgh for the future General Assembly. The General Assembly reaffirmed the importance of the establishment principle and cautioned all Assembly committees against producing reports to the General Assembly and undermine in any way essential doctrines and fundamental principles within the Constitution of the Free Church of Scotland. The General Assembly appointed a committee of 6 brethren to investigate a possible location in Edinburgh for a future General Assembly, the moderator to be the convener of the committee, and the General Assembly appoint the General Assembly of 2026 to meet within Partick Free Church, continuing Glasgow. Moderator, can I thank first of all Mr. MacLeod for clarifying that last point about the Faith Mission. It wasn't this year, it was the year before last year that was looked into, and I accepted that. I never argued with that point. Last year, I withdrew a motion that I had before this Assembly because brethren did not want to go to Liberton out of a matter of conscience. But I do have a very strong view on this. I have a conscience too. And I withdrew it on the basis that they would look into into Fernie Hill Church. And yet we don't have any more information today than we did last year. I don't know how I was supposed to liaise and say how much it would cost. I said last year I didn't know. I suggested it might be for a fee, but I don't know. I don't even know if it would be available. I don't know that. That's not my job. That's the job of this committee to do that on behalf of the Assembly, so that they would be able to come back here and say, Fernie Hill is or is not available. If it's not available, that's fine. That's fine. Now you might think to yourself, well, surely this is just all about a building. or a city or a place. It's not, gentlemen. It's nothing like that. It's none of that. It's nothing to do with that. You go to page 6 of this report. Page 6 of this report indicates that to have the Assembly in Edinburgh is a symbolic illustration. It's a symbolic illustration, gentlemen, of the establishment principle. And what this report is saying to me is a symbolic illustration to this country that we believe in the establishment principle comes down to mere desire, or, as it goes down in verse 5, maybe a mere preference. That to me, I don't know if I've seen a report come and make that statement, that a fundamental principle of our church, which we can symbolically illustrate before the country, before the people of our nation, is merely a preference or a desire. It is, to me, a requirement, it's an obligation, it's a duty for us to stand and demonstrate that. If at the end of the day, gentlemen, I've listened to the moderator last night, and he said how precious these fundamental principles are. They are precious, they are so precious that we must, I can't remember how he put it, we must adhere to them or never depart from them, never separate ourselves from them. I can't now remember exactly what the word is. This morning he says, we are rooted in history. And if you don't root yourself in history, you're just like gathering like everybody else. That's all you're doing. We believe, I think this report, in fact, got the wrong end of the stick. I think this report, I've tried to read to see why a report would say that a fundamental principle and illustrating that before the nation is a mere desire or a preference. I've tried to figure out where it's coming from, and I think it's coming from the wrong place, because I think it's coming from the view that the place is all important. Read through it, and it's as if it's a principle that we must have it in Edinburgh. And it's a principle we must not have it in Glasgow. That's what this seems to be arguing. And I've never argued that. We can have the Assembly in Glasgow. If you want to have the Assembly in Glasgow, you can have it in Glasgow. It's not the place that is the principle. It's the establishment principle that is the principle. That if we have the opportunity to demonstrate to the nation, to our people, that we believe in that principle, then we should be doing that. Let me go through the report itself. The report starts off by going back to the children of Israel out in the wilderness. That's nothing to do with us, gentlemen. The children of Israel were out in the wilderness because of unbelief. And they perished out there. It's nothing to do with us or anything that we represent. It then comes to the one thing that you can take from the Old Testament, that is the civil authority and the religious authority were side by side. But even then it tries to play it down by saying, well, that's not really the assembly or synods. Well, that's fine. Say I accept that. It then comes to councils in the New Testament. It refers to the Council of Nicaea, the Council of Jerusalem, the Synod of Dort. What do we take out of these, gentlemen? These are not representative of us, because they're not representative of national assemblies. They were raised for specific issues. The Synod of Dort was a pan-European synod. They even went from Scotland to it. But let me take the first one that's mentioned, Nicaea. What do we take out of that? Well, this report says Nicaea tells us that we should be in Glasgow and not in Edinburgh. But why was Nicaea called in Nicaea in the first place? It was called in Nicaea because the palace of Emperor Constantine was in Nicaea. How can you use a a council at that to say that we should be down in Glasgow, when in fact it's saying the very opposite. It's not the place. This is concentrating on the place. I'm concentrating on the principle. If there's anything we should take out of Nicaea, is that we should be saying we should be in Edinburgh, and we should be saying to His Majesty the King, you should be coming and visiting us, because we are the true established church in Scotland. Now, would that not be something? That would be standing up positively for the establishment principle. Why don't we go and the King, who goes to the Church of Scotland, who then goes to the Free Church, Johnson Terrace. Why Johnson Terrace? The Free Church had property all over the land, even in Edinburgh. They had property. But they chose Johnson Terrace. Why? Church of Scotland, Free Church, right in its face. The King went from one to the other. We should be saying to them today, they're not the true representatives of the establishment principle. We are. And note this, gentlemen, the Free Church today in Johnson Terrace are on their way to denying the establishment principle. They've had this at their assembly for the last how many years? They're debating it. They may not throw over to all of it, but they will deny the confessional position on the establishment principle. And what are we doing? We're moving down to Partick. We should be up there saying we represent the true established church in this land. And we should write to His Majesty and say, you come and visit us. And when you do visit us, or your representative comes and visits us, we're not accepting a papist. Don't send a papist, but we will be there. Now, will he come? Probably not. But does it matter? Why does the King go to the Church of Scotland and to the Free Church? That, gentlemen, is just like this, a symbolical illustration. A symbolical illustration. That's all it is. If it's just a symbolical illustration, why would we write and complain about a Roman Catholic one? The establishment principle does not depend on royalty going to the assembly. It's just a symbolic illustration of it. But let me take you on to another place in this report. It doesn't only go to Nicaea and use Nicaea to prove something ridiculous. It goes to 1638, when the Free Church came, or the Church of Scotland came to Glasgow. Why was it in Glasgow? Because it was filled with Covenanters, defending the establishment principle. That's why they were down here. The only time in Scotland's history it came to Glasgow, and they were down here defending the establishment principle, and we're saying now we won't even do something that will illustrate the establishment principle. I believe, gentlemen, whenever anybody thinks I can't accept a report that starts off by saying, this report states it, this is a good illustration of the establishment principle. It gives two reasons why it is a good illustration of it, but then it goes on to say that that's only a preference. Well, if that, gentlemen, is the way we are going to deal with a fundamental principle of our church, then let me tell you what the forefathers of our church said about the establishment principle in the claim declaration and protest. It says it's an essential doctrine of this church and a fundamental principle of its constitution. And what did they say about it when it comes to the protest? And finally, while asserting the right and duty of the civil magistrates to maintain and support an establishment in religion in accordance with God's word, and reserving to ourselves and our successors to strive by all lawful means, as opportunity shall in God's good providence be offered, to secure the performance of this duty agreeable to the Scripture. We are to strive with all lawful means. Is it lawful to be in Edinburgh? Yes, it is. And that is a means of demonstrating to this nation and to our people in Edinburgh, we believe that we are the true Church of Scotland and we believe in the establishment principle. Is that an absolute? Is it equivalent to, for example, if the magistrate told us we had to officiate at sodomite weddings? Of course it's not. It says here that it is to be, that it says here they were to strive by all lawful means as opportunity shall in God's good providence be offered. Now, it might be that in God's good providence there's nowhere in Edinburgh. And if that's the case, fine. I'm happy with coming to Glasgow. What I'm not happy about is when there may be a place in Edinburgh where we can go and do what we should be doing, and we just say, well, that's just a preference. It's not a preference. It is symbolising to the world. And it's a symbolic illustration of the establishment principle. Who says so? This report itself says so. Thank you, Moderator.
Are there any questions for Mr. Gracie? Mr. Gracie, would you like to, you do have a question?
Moderator, fathers and brethren, just quickly, just with the proposed deliverance seems to articulate strongly twice that the General Assembly is desirous of meeting in Edinburgh in parts 3 and 4. The General Assembly desirous that the General Assembly be held in Edinburgh, and in part 4 also. The proposal that you have here, Mr. Gracie, removes that language, and I'm wondering if, as it is the deliverance that matters rather than the report as such, whether we might actually be undermining the point that you're trying to make.
Which bit are you?
So what they have here, they have it stated twice, desirous that the General Assembly be held in Edinburgh, desirous that the General Assembly be held in Edinburgh. That's removed by your language.
Yes, but that's because that removes that, because while they're desirous of it, it is by pragmatic reasons that they then say. That's the whole point of my motion is that if you leave it there, they say it's desirous that it should be there, but they then use pragmatic arguments. Which is more important, us representing and illustrating the establishment principle, or whether we can park our cars in the street? That's my argument.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Gracie?
Moderator, just draw attention to what I think is a confusion.
Perhaps you could come, Mr. Woods, and so that all can hear you.
Moderator, fathers and brethren, I may be wrong in my understanding, but I think Mr. Manderson is perhaps thinking that the last part of what's on that page is part of... No, that's fine. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Gracie? If there are no questions, Mr. Gracie, will you move your motion and then it'll be seconded?
I, Moderator, will move. I have not, it's not my practice to ask people to second. I would hope that someone would second it. If I also say that if it doesn't pass, then I will dissent from it. But I have not asked anybody
Thank you.
to second.
Is there a seconder for Mr. Gracie's motion? Mr. McCallum seconds. We have a seconder. You're seconding this?
Is somebody else seconded?
You're seconding it. Be brief.
Moderator, fathers and brethren, I think Mr. Gracie's covered the main points regarding the establishment principle, and I would have to say, although I'm seconding the motion, I might not be persuaded with everything, but because it embraces what my concern is, that's why I'm prepared to second it. Now, we don't know, none of us know our history in great detail, but you don't need to know much of Scottish history to know how Edinburgh, the part that Edinburgh has played in the Reformed Church in Scotland. It's just, you don't need to search for that. It strikes you as soon as you open a book on the Reformed Church in Scotland. The Reformation Parliament, which established the Protestant faith in Scotland, where did that take place? Well, we know it took place in Edinburgh. Very interesting also in terms of symbolism. We understand, I don't know how historically accurate it is, that they met in the Magdalene Chapel. That was my understanding. The first assembly met in the Magdalene Chapel. There are historians here who know more about that than I do. And it's very interesting that when the Free Church of Scotland was reconstituted in 2000, where did we meet? Where did the reconstitution take place? In the Magdalene Chapel. We could go on and on. 1843, the disruption, another landmark in the history of the Reformed Church and the Free Church. We trace our lineage, that's our history, that's our heritage. The disruption, where did that take place? Where was it? In Edinburgh. We could go up to 1900 and so on, but we're steady enough. So what I'm saying is this, Mr. Gracey's focused on the establishment principle. I'm just focusing on church history. And it's an absurdity to suggest that it's a matter of indifference. It's not a matter of indifference. There's the term that is used in the report. No doubt there's time when we can be pragmatic. You know, there's a time. That's why I asked the clerk for his views about that. You know, is that an essential thing? And I'm not sure if it may be helpful to have continuity, but it doesn't strike me as being essential. And what I'm saying is this, that it's part of our history, and there are roots in history apart from the theological basis of the principle, and we cannot simply regard that as accidental, as something that is simply pragmatic, that we can decide to just abandon, because if there's to be, I'm more than happy here in terms of the proceedings, always have been, excellent location, but there may be another location that's just as excellent. But the point is this, that once you start, if you've got, we've already been 2 years in Glasgow, am I right? Is this a third year? And then I suggested 5 years. You're starting a new tradition. It's a new tradition being started. And if you were, again, easily done, go through the number of assemblies since 1560. They weren't all held in Edinburgh, but I would suggest that probably 95% of them, from 1560 right up until, well, when we were last in Edinburgh, were held in Edinburgh. These things, it's not just accidental that these things happen. So all I'm saying is that the committee should take serious, and the Assembly should take serious its own history. We can't just ignore our history and our tradition. We're not essentially pragmatists.
Thank you very much. Thank you for seconding that. Are there any other motions? I think we're one from Mr. Woods. Would you like to come? This is where it starts to get complicated, but we've got the experts here. So, Mr. Woods.
Moderator, fathers and brethren, this is actually a motion for simplicity, not for complication. It seems to me that the deliverance before us is inconsistent with a theme in the report that there is quite a difference of opinion amongst the brethren. And I am of the view that both of these items, 3 and 4, they beg the question. They actually state that the General Assembly is desirous. How can they be desirous if there is a difference, a strong difference of opinion between members? I'm not making any comments here about whether we do or we don't, whether we accept or we reject. I'm only asking that the language be made clear, that we delete those references to an opinion, an unknown opinion, and I believe an unfounded opinion of the General Assembly, embodied in the report. And the Deliverance 3 can stand without that. The Deliverance 4, I suggest, is deleted, because if we are speaking about the foreseeable future, the implication is that we're going to be looking at this on a regular basis. We're going to be asking, is it time to move back to Edinburgh? And to put that in, again with this implication that everybody's desperate to get back to Edinburgh, but we can't, is going too far. So deleting item 4 doesn't detract anything, because there is an ongoing investigation or thought given to where the Assembly will meet. And that is the purpose of this motion. I haven't asked anybody to second.
Point of order, my understanding is, what was just presented, that the paper doesn't actually say what he says. I think it's missing a phrase.
Yes, it is.
It should say remove 4.
Item 4 be deleted.
Yes, yes, it was in the original deliverance, sorry, in the original proposed deliverance. Yes, yes, it should read 3. The General Assembly appoint the General Assembly to meet within within Glasgow for the foreseeable future. Item 4 be deleted. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Are there any questions for Mr. Woods? We do have.
Moderator, I've heard what Mr. Woods has said, explaining what he means by item 3, the proposed new item 3. Apart from what he has said, what is there actually in the deliverance that would compel or even encourage the committee to keep this under review? Because it's certainly not what I thought it meant, and there seems a bit of eisegesis as opposed to exegesis to getting where he has got to.
Thank you. Mr. Woods.
Yes, well, taking things out of passages is not something that is just my problem. It occurs in other areas that I won't mention. If you speak about meeting for this foreseeable future, there's an implication, is there not, that it's not permanent. That carries the idea of impermanence. It's foreseeable future. And I don't think it's too much to say that this item is going to come up again and again and again in the foreseeable future. I don't think there's any fear that this will drop from the debate on the floor of the Assembly. Item 4 just becomes redundant, because you're going to be looking at it anyway.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Woods? You don't have any more questions? Are there no more questions?
Moderator, I have no more questions on what was said.
Thank you very much
I cannot
indeed.
raise a question.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for Mr. Woods' motion? Is there a seconder? We have a seconder. Okay. Do we have speakers on either of these? Well, we're open to speakers. We have one already. And we have possibly 2.
Moderator, brethren, can I just clarify, it's not really a speech, it's simply, I kept waiting for a point of information to be raised, which was with regards to the first part of Mr. Gracie's amendment, which is that we had not fulfilled to investigate the possible location in Edinburgh for the future Assembly, and the implication that somehow we had not been in contact or had not properly considered Fairnie-Lee. That seems to be what I was picking up. In actual fact, the reason that Fairnie-Lee could not be, is it Fairnie-Lee? It is Fairnie-Lee, isn't it? Fairnie-Hill, I beg your pardon, Fairnie-Lee's in Aberdeen. The reason that we did not have the opportunity to do it this year was because they got back to us, but they got back to us too late. And so although there is some information that we have now, we didn't have it in time for it to be possible to deal with it and the placing of this assembly. It would have just simply not been practicable, and that's why we did not bring anything forward at this time. It wasn't that we failed to do what we were given, and I think that rebuke is really a little unfair, to put it mildly. Thank you.
Are there any other speeches? Mr. Kerry.
I would say this: there is no necessary connection between the establishment principle and the location of an assembly. I think that is axiomatic. And I think offence can be taken, indeed, of the second point of this proposal in relation to reports for the General Assembly. These are axiomatic as well. If there is anything that anybody raises with respect to reports, there is a procedure that can be implemented there, because it might involve disciplinary action. You have to be very careful what you write, and certainly I would say at least the second section should be deleted from this forthwith. So that's really all I have to say here, but the main thing is, in my estimation, no necessary connection between the establishment principle and the General Assembly. Whether the General Assembly meets in Dunfermline, St Andrews, Inverness, Glasgow, Edinburgh, which has been the case. Perth, the Articles of Perth, of course, 1618, 1638 in Glasgow, two vital assemblies. There are no assemblies between them. So it's a complex issue, but certainly it's overstating it grossly and a hyperbole to say that there's some sort of power in a mere symbol.
Thank you, Mr. Kerry.
Thank you, Moderator. Just a couple of points, fathers and brethren. From my understanding of how it's been presented in terms of the principle, of the establishment principle, the distinction between Mr. Grace's position and that taken up by the committee appears to be one of reading of providence. Mr. Grace himself said if providentially there was no church available, then there's no issue with having it in Glasgow. We providentially do not have the manpower, we do not have our own building anywhere near as suitable as this building to have it in Edinburgh. I'm very happy to have it in Edinburgh. We had it for years. I had no problem having it there. It's actually easy to get to for me. It's a shorter drive, more likely to get back home on the ferry. Lots of positives for Edinburgh. I lived there for 6 years, love the city. But it's a reading of providence in that case, and I think to elevate that to the point of a breach of principle is a mistake. And I would echo the point being made by Mr. Kelly, which was what I really came up to say. I think points 1 and 2 they leave me very uneasy if that were to pass, fathers and brethren. This is effectively an implied accusation against a standing committee of the church that they are in breach of their principles as free church ministers and elders. And I really think we should think extremely carefully before letting that pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? And if there are any other, please make your way forward.
Moderator, fathers and brethren, I think we must realise that there's a huge difference between a principle and an illustration of the principle. We all hold firmly to the establishment principle, but an illustration of the principle is another thing altogether. The committee did look at these matters in considerable detail. We had a report from Mr. Gracie. We had a report from Gavin Beers looking in detail into these questions, and we gave it a lot of thought. But if Mr. Gracie were to purchase a church in Edinburgh with good facilities in it, and preferably on the west side of Edinburgh, we would be delighted to go there for our assembly. We really should have a much better church in Edinburgh, I believe, than we do have a church that would be suitable as a capital church for us as a denomination. So an encouragement to Mr. Gracie to get a good big church on the east side. When all these Church of Scotlands are going for sale, surely there must be one that he could acquire.
Thank you very much for that. Would the convener like to summarise all that has been said? And then we'll come to vote.
I'd like to thank the brethren for their comments. Just to reiterate what has already been said, the committee are in no way disputing the establishment principle. And I think Mr. Keddy especially highlighted the danger of mixing the principle with the symbol. As regards Mr. Woods' amendment, or proposed amendment, I think the spirit of what Mr. Woods is saying is already included in our proposed deliverance under 4 with the reassessing. It's always going to be looked at, and it's not something that we'd be looking to dismiss altogether.
Thank you. Now we come to vote. So it's the third motion, that's Mr. Wood's motion, against the first motion that is being proposed by Mr. MacLeod. So it's yours, it's up. So the third motion against the first motion. So the third motion is moved by Mr. Woods. It's there on your orange coloured sheet. So if we can now call for votes. All those in favour of Mr. Wood's motion? Start counting.
Fell asleep there, sir.
Do you want against?
And
Are you
goes for the first motion.
Okay.
Goes for the deliverance. Goes for the deliverance.
Well, that's the second motion, do you want?
No.
The third motion against the first motion? Okay. All those in favour of the first motion, which is the deliverance? Get the term right.
That's the deliverance. Well. You could actually vote for 6, 7, 8,
So the deliverance carries. So we now come to the second motion, which is Mr. Gentleman, if we could come to order. It's the second motion against the deliverance. So that's Mr. Gracie's. So you have Mr. Gracie's on the sheet. So if we can now ask all those who are in favour of Mr. Gracie's motion to raise your hands.
4, 5, 6, 6.
So the deliverance, I assume.
All those for the deliverance.
Okay, well, I think that's obvious. All those in favour of the deliverance?
Okay.
Yeah, deliverance carries. Thank you very much.
Well, can I put these to the
You can, yes.
Submit reasons now, if you really want. Should submit reasons.
Well, before the day's out.
Well, if you want
To be fair.
In a minute,
Before the
Yeah, let's not be too hard.
Okay, am I dismissed?
Yes, you are dismissed. He can record his reasons later, can't he? Rather than try and work it out now. Set them out now.
He's got them written, but now
yeah.
you can read better, read out.
Is he reading out his dissent?
Yes. I dissent.
Gentlemen, Mr. Gracie will read his dissent.
For the following reasons, the decision of the Assembly states that the illustration of the establishment principle to our people, the wider church and the country takes second place to pragmatic arguments and is merely a desire, not an obligation. This is, well, I don't do that. Secondly, the decision of the Assembly contradicts the protest of 1843, in which our forefathers state, the reserving to ourselves and our successors to strive by all lawful means, as opportunity shall in God's good providence be offered, to secure the performance of this duty agreeable to Scripture. Illustrating the establishment principle by means in Edinburgh is such a lawful means. However, the Assembly did not test to see if in God's good providence a place was available in Edinburgh for the Assembly to meet. The General Assembly could not competently come to its decision on pragmatic grounds because it had not identified a possible venue for holding its Assembly in Edinburgh.
Thank you. The clerk will take now and sign it.
Was that a protest or dissent? Sorry.
I just as a saying.
Moderator, there's a parking issue. Does anyone here have the car SH71HXB? Could you see about moving it in some way, please?
Thank you. Moving on. Petitions, Principal Clerk. Petitions.
That's what we move on to. So we'll call the
Petitions.
you'll see, you keep them up in order.
Okay. 13. Petition 1, Presbytery of Navarre and Aragon, and then appointment as general assessors.
Moderator, fathers and brethren,
What do we do with these petitions? Just everybody?
it is my privilege to present the petition from the Presbytery of Navarre and Aragon about the appointment of general assessors. It's in the page 9, the Assembly papers. So as you know, the Presbytery of Navarre and Aragon is a young presbytery with a few people. We have only 3 congregations, 2 ministers and 5 ruling elders. And so we need general assessors to function as a Presbyterian. And so we want to express our thanks for the General Assembly and for the general assessors of the presbytery from the last years. And we want particularly to thank the Reverend James McInnes and the Reverend David Ratti, who are not able to continue with us in the presbytery. So, moderator, if there is no question, I will move.
Are there any questions for our brother? Seeing no questions, please move your motion.
I move as following. The General Assembly received the petition of the Free Presbytery of Navarre and Aragon and grant its crave and appoint Reverend William Bill Scott, Reverend Graham Craig, Mr. Alastair Manderson, and Mr. David Norris, General Assessors to the Free Presbytery of Navarre and Aragon.
Is there a seconder for that? Thank you. Are there any motions on this? Speeches on this? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Petition 2, Free Northern Presbyterian and appointment of special assessors for Tarbert.
Moderator, fathers and brethren, you'll find the petition on page 10 of your assembly papers. Page 10 of your assembly papers. And folks that come up to the table, don't bring juice with your water. Just soaked all my papers here. The petition itself, I think, is straightforward. It explains why there is a need for special assessors for the Tarbert congregation, and I don't want to go over all of these reasons unnecessarily.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No questions, please move.
I move that the General Assembly receive the petition from the Free Northern Presbytery anent appointment of special assessors for Tarbert and grant its crave. Now, that's as far as I can go.
Is there a second? There's a second.
Because, if I may, I don't know, we have no names to propose. And yet we need, we have no names to propose. I mean, how can we propose names from very distant presbyteries? That was our problem. It's easy enough for us to think up names and just drop men in it. But I think that it's much better if volunteers were asked for.
Can you grant the petition unless you have names? Can the petition be granted without names?
Moderator, it would be competent. The motion is competent if it was continued to grant its crave and resolve to appoint assessor elders to the grant its crave and resolve to appoint assessor elders, special assessors to the Northern Presbytery anent Tarbat, and really the Tarbat is the name that should be in the petition in the minutes.
Give me that again.
Crave and resolve to appoint special assessors to the Free Northern Presbytery anent Tarbat. And moderator, they would be special assessors because they would not deal with every matter the presbytery were dealing with, but only those in connection with the said congregation.
Will the Assembly appoint those names now or later?
Moderator, we could then proceed to a motion to appoint certain people. But this gets at least the agreement to do it.
So it doesn't have to be appointed now, is that what you're saying?
It would be better if they were appointed now.
Mr. McCallum, you're volunteering.
I already am. I'm already an assessor elder in Port Mahomet, and a problem is at communions. We've been operating with one elder, but really it's not ideal. And that's to echo what the
Please address the Assembly.
Presbytery Charter said really that to appoint someone from Glasgow to be an assessor elder and to be able to assist at communions, how practicable that is, moderator, I can't see.
Does the principal clerk have an answer for that?
Well, can I move the first part that's been agreed?
Yes.
Okay. The General Assembly received the petition of the Free Northern Presbytery anent appointment of special assessors for Tarbat and grant its crave, and resolve to appoint special assessors to the Free Northern Presbytery anent Tarbat.
All happy with that? Thank you. Principal Clerk, do you want to proceed to appoint the special assessors?
I can go and sit down now, can I?
Maybe not, just wait till we see what he says.
Moderator, it would be certainly more helpful, I think, for business and for the minutes if we just dealt with the matter now. I think there's a need for at least 2 special assessors.
We need an interim moderator.
You need at least one minister.
We need at least one elder.
So it could be 1 or 2, but
Are there any volunteers? Are there any names you have in mind?
Can I mention that we at present have an interim moderator, but he has intimated his desire to resign at the end of the summer. And that's what makes it important that we deal with this now.
Mr. McCallum? No? Principal Clerk?
Moderator, may I propose the names of Reverend James McInnes, Reverend Murdo Angus MacLeod, and Mr. Ian McPherson. That will give us 2 ministers and 1 elder, and they are probably the closest. I have been involved in giving some advice, I know, to the folks in Tarbat, but such as my current situation and workload, I would refuse to help, and it's not because I would have out of any desire to be helpful, but I just couldn't do it.
May we assume that those 3 names that the individuals mentioned are happy to be nominated? If you are, then can we proceed with that?
Well, I would so move that they 3 be appointed. The General Assembly appoint these 3 special assessors to the Northern Presbytery anent Tarbat.
All content with that?
Something like that.
Thank you.
Moderator, I think I would be speaking for the Presbytery to say that we would be happy with those names.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. I'm aware that there will be a photograph at the end of this adjournment, so if we could just push on through the petitions, that would be very helpful. Free Northern Presbyterian End, Union of Kilturn and Kilmorrick and Strathglass. Can we have that immediately and efficiently?
The moderator and I have an interest in this. I'm an elder in Kilturn, and I've been asked to present this petition. Again, the Presbytery Clerk has been very succinct in all the reasoning. I won't go over it again. Only thing that I would add, which is not there, is that there's also accounts in the Kilturn congregational account. We took action, legal action, to secure funds, and we were successful. So at the moment there'd be around about £18,000, I think, in the Kilturn accounts. That's just to fill out the information.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions before we move to seconder? Any questions for brother? No questions. Move the motion.
I will move that the Assembly accept the terms, the crave of this petition.
And do we have a seconder? We have a seconder. All content? Thank you. Presbytery of Skye and Lochcarron, and then linkage of Bracketdale, Durnish, Kilmure and Stenskill. Who's moving that?
Oh, I am. Was that a petition just went through?
Yes.
Kilturn,
Kilmorrick.
Is there a motion been moved? Because
Yes, it has been moved.
It's not been submitted to the clerk's table. It must be submitted to, any motions must be submitted in writing to the clerk.
Is that it? He has it.
Because otherwise we can't keep it. What was in the petition? This is for the approval of the long enough to know what to do. So.
Are we ready for the next one?
We're going too fast. Moderator, we're going too fast.
The clerks just have to keep up.
Well, moderator, if the brethren are moving motions like that, they should have
Should have been
their
ready.
motions in writing.
Well, I'm assuming that the other petitioners do have it in writing. So that's Skye, Lacaran, Presbytery USA, twice, and the Congregation of Mabea. And I'm assuming you've got all that in writing. Yes? Yeah? Content to move? Yeah. Presbytery of Skye and Lacaran. I'm assuming you have it in writing.
I will.
Please proceed.
Well, moderator, fathers and brethren, the petition is self-explanatory. We have two congregations, neither of which is able to reach the equal dividend level. Indeed, even together, they're not able to reach the equal dividend level. And can I just express our thankfulness to the Finance and Sustentation Committee, Mr. Gracie and Mr. Murray, for being so accommodating and helpful as we went through this process and in approving a joint sustentation fund schedule. This, in some ways, is challenging. The two congregations are not cheek by jowl geographically, but with modern technology, you can find a way around some of these problems as well.
And you have a motion?
Yes, I would move that the General Assembly receive the petition of the Free Presbytery of Skye and Lochcarron, anent linkage of Bracadale and Durnish and Kilmuir and Stenchel, and grant its crave. They consolidate the congregation, they link the congregation, of Bracadale and Durnish with the congregation of Kilmuir and Stenchel, with 2 kirk sessions and 2 deacons' courts.
Any questions for brother? There are no questions. Do we have a seconder for this? A question?
What would it be called?
Well, with a linkage, it normally the names of the 2 parishes. It's a bit of a long one, but
Another long title. Do we have a seconder?
I think it's been
Seconder. All content? Yes, all content. Presumably you'll give your motion to the principal clerk. Can we have the Presbytery of USA and then raising Nobleford to a sanctioned charge? Who's coming for that?
Moderator, fathers and brethren, I will only take a brief moment of your time. You get to hear a different accent for one moment. So I'm here on behalf of the United States Presbytery in regard to the petition from the Presbytery and then raising the Nobleford congregation in Nobleford, Alberta to a fully sanctioned charge. And so I would leave it to the brethren in the House as it is in the print.
Okay. Are there any questions? Do we have a seconder for this? We have a seconder. Well, half a dozen seconders.
Moderator, I haven't.
He's going to move. Move your motion.
Yes, Moderator, I would move that the General Assembly receive the petition from the Presbytery of the United States anent raising Nobleford to a fully sanctioned charge and grant its crave that the General Assembly would raise the Nobleford preaching station to a fully sanctioned charge.
And that was seconded by Mr. MacLeod.
Moderator, we will need to do a little more than that. I think the Presbytery wish them to be placed under the supervision of the Presbytery because they're technically speaking outside the bounds of the presbytery, and that the minister be given a seat in the presbytery, and that the congregation be permitted to send a representative elder.
I take it that should be in the motion, all of that.
Should be in the motion.
Can you assist our brethren to put that in the motion?
I will assist our brother to put that in the motion. I can do that now, or if you are happy just to hear me saying it, and it will go in the minute.
You're all happy to hear him say it. Mr. Evans, you wish to comment?
I was just seeking to assist.
You're seeking to assist.
If you wish, we will read out the motion in a minute.
In the minute, that's
You give us
fine.
a minute.
You're happy?
No, we've got it in a minute, I said, rather.
Well, you can put it in the minute.
Under the supervision of the minister and that's an awkward one. Okay. Okay, yeah. Moderator, the motion would be the General Assembly received the petition from the Presbytery of the USA and raising Nobleford to a fully sanctioned charge and grant its crave, and raise Nobleford to a fully sanctioned charge under the supervision of the three Presbyteries of the USA, with the Minister granted a seat on the Presbytery along with a representative elder.
You have heard the motion, all content with that. It's ready. Thank you. Next is the Presbytery of USA and then Church Planter. I'm assuming you do have a motion as well.
Special reference. So ministers granted a seat. The congregation has got no right because we have the session on the facing charge.
Are we ready for this petition?
Yes, moderator, thank you for your patience. This petition comes after discussion by the Presbytery of the USA and prayer, looking to the Lord to do great things through us in Latin America, and reading his providence with the door that the Lord has opened to our presbytery to work in Mexico and Latin America. The reason that this petition is coming to the General Assembly is because we find ourselves in a situation where Presbytery desires to send a missionary to Mexico. The congregation that we have in Mexico is not yet a fully sanctioned charge. And so whatever minister is sent would need to have a way to still have a seat on Presbytery. So that's part of what's being craved here from the Assembly to create a seat on Presbytery for the missionary. So this is something that the Presbytery has assessed its ability to fund, so we're not asking for money from the General Assembly, but simply asking that Presbytery be authorized to appoint a missionary church planter for Mexico and Latin America. So, moderator, I have a motion, but before I move my motion...
Are there any questions for our brother? Seeing no questions, you may move your motion.
I move that the General Assembly receive the petition from the Presbytery of the USA and grant its crave, authorizing the Presbytery of the USA to appoint a church planter evangelist to work with special reference to the Presbytery's missionary endeavors in Latin America, and that the minister appointed be granted a seat on the Presbytery.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? We have a seconder. Are there any speeches? There are no speeches. All content? Thank you. You may take your seat. And then the next petition, Congregation of Mabon, and then change of name.
Yes, moderator. This petition comes in the providence of God. Our Mabon congregation, as officially named, has obtained a place of worship, a building, and it's not located in Mabon. So Mabon and Burlington are neighboring towns very close to each other. However, locally, it just doesn't make sense to call this the Mabon congregation when it meets in Burlington. So it's with thanksgiving to God for his blessing in answer to prayer and the giving of his people that a place of worship has been found. And so I'll be ready with the motion, moderator, when there's questions.
Are there any questions on this? Seeing no questions, please move your motion.
Moderator, I move that the General Assembly receive the petition from the Presbytery of the United States of America and grant its crave by ordaining that the congregation hitherto known as Mabon be known henceforth as Burlington.
Is there a seconder? We have a second. Are you all content? And I'm sure you will all rejoice in the progress and the work there and pass that on to our brother, to the folk in Burlington. Thank you. Well, the Assembly shall adjourn, and there is a photograph. So I think Mr. Allen will give instructions as to where he wants everyone to be. You weren't here?
I was in the clerk's office, moderator.
There are intimations before we get the photograph.
I'm sure you'd be disappointed if I didn't appear here again. Okay. Tea will be at 5 p.m. in the hall. So we're adjourning at 4:30. As I said, there's the Assembly photo will be taken, so you will do as Mr. Allen tells you to do as soon as we finish and not be unruly. We're reconvening here at 6:30. What happened? What did we do with? How did we work giving thanks last year? I've got Grace said in hall. Is that what happened last year? Can anyone remember? Were we seated and we were reserved? Is that the way it went? Or
it was said in there.
It was said in there?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. We need, if there are any amendments or addenda for reports to be taken in the 4th and 5th seditions, they should be in my hands now. So that will be public questions, Samedi, training of the ministry and admissions. That's the main report of the training of the ministry and missions, and home and foreign missions. If there are any addenda, amendment, they should be forward now.
Just hand it a few seconds.
Moderator. I remind people, PQRM, Samedi, training of the ministry main report, each home and foreign missions. I have currently to I think there are addenda to the PQRM. I'm looking to the mover of the motion. I think there are addenda. Yeah, just because one says addendum, says amendment 1, amendment 2. Oh, sorry, it doesn't, it says addendum. I'm misreading that, sorry. Right, first of all, the General Assembly, concerned with the widespread disregard for the sanctity of human life, direct the committee to consider in particular the ethics of do not resuscitate, DNR orders generally, but also the danger of coercion or biased information offered from within medical profession, and so that the Church and nation may be warned. Further, direct the committee to report to the next General Assembly its findings thereanent. Perhaps, I think its findings is redundant, probably just thereanent would do. That's a tidy up job. Second one, the General Assembly, in recognising the unique remit of the committee to speak on behalf of the Church on public questions, religion and morals, deem it imperative that the state is represented with a clear biblical presentation of the truth. Direct the committee to utilise its remit to the full timelessly, and further encourage the committee to establish, if necessary, new internal protocols to accomplish the same. That's 2 addenda for the PQRM committee. For the training of the ministry and missions committee from Mr. Keddy, the General Assembly is thankful for the continuance of arrangements for the annual Free Church School in Theology in its 71st year, and encourage ministers and elders to attend the school. They further encourage local deacons' courts to provide some financial support to ministers and elders to enable their attendance. I think that's what it says. And then the missions committee. I think this is delete paragraph 13 and replace with the following. The General Assembly instruct the Home and Foreign Missions Committee to retain the status quo of regulating the Reverend S.M.V. Parthipan's annual maintenance payment in accordance with the cost of living in Sri Lanka. Paragraph 16, there's an amendment
the addition of the following words.
The addition of the following words, up to a maximum of £2,000. That's an item, paragraph 16, up to a maximum of £2,000. I presume that is that per annum? Ah, okay. Okay.
Is that everything?
So these are all the informations. We said the photograph, the deceased ministers, the minute, and then deceased ministers and elders, that committee. Is it a time for meeting?
No, not yet.
Okay. The printing of acts. Are any other committees needing to meet? No?
Assembly arrangements will be meeting tomorrow, but we have not yet specified a time.
Okay.
Just
General
general notice to the members.
Okay. Okay. You have been warned if you're on that committee. Moderator, I think that then is all the business. The General Assembly now adjourned to meet again in this place this evening at 6:30 o'clock evening, whereof public information is hereby given.
Thank you. The photograph.
No, we pray. You've got to.
Sorry, but you didn't announce the photograph again, just to remind me. There will be a photograph.
As soon as we finish here, you will not leave this room. You will await instructions from Mr. Allen, and you will obey him implicitly, directly, immediately, upon pain of certain death and certainly no dinner if you don't do it.
Thank you for that.
Does that include the clerks?
Yes.
Yes.
Let us close in prayer. Almighty and ever blessed God, we are thankful to Thee for the fellowship that we have here as brethren in the Lord's cause. Go before us, bless us for the remainder of this day, and pardon all our sins for Christ's sake.